Hello, good evening and welcome. Just having a Danny LaRue. And I've got a day with me. Good evening, Mick. Good to see you. How is one? Just just pouring a lager. Well, Foster's, it's nearly a lager. Good evening, Paul. Good to see you. Last can of the Christmas lager. Sad the dry January. What they been up to today, fellas? Anything good? I've got absolutely nothing done. Absolutely no done. I've thought I've thought about getting shit done and I haven't got shit done. I've thought about buying stuff and then I've thought, no, I've got enough stuff already. I've got enough stuff for the channel, etc. already that I'm not getting done. Oh, cool. Which one was it? Which one is it, I should say? Paul, Dapol, Hornby. There's a few made that's here now, isn't there? Yeah, there's a few out with have Rails of Sheffield done a terrier as well. Hornby, what's it like? I do fancy getting a terrier. It's one I've not got so far. And I don't fancy the old mainline one because of the old mainline problems. I think it were mainline that had them. I want a different mechanism for the axles to that. And I'm thinking Hornby will use their idea for the axles. Because I do like the livery of I do fancy the improved loco green livery. Excellent. I think that might be one for the future, Paul. I do want one in the improved loco green. I like the livery. It does look good. I bought another I bought another American loco for fleet. It's in parts because as usual I bought another non-runner. I've found out why it took 2 minutes to find out why. I think it's a DCC loco. Oh, there's a circuit on it because I've took the plug out and I've connected my controller to the two motor wires and the motor runs fine. So it's a problem in the circuitry. Whether I cut all the boards out and just wire it up normally or I wire DCC into it. It's quite a nice loco, really. It's a DCC sound would be an option. Yeah, there's not. I have seen the 2024 Army range, Paul, and I'll be honest, there's nothing that really grabs me. There's only one that'd grab me, and that's a do I want it or do I not want it? And that's the Northampton Saints, the Class 66. And that only grabbed me attention because I went to Birmingham with Mick on here, and on my way back I saw that loco pulling a car train in the Midlands, and that's the only reason that one grabs me attention. All the others I'm like, yeah. For the price you pay for them, I don't buy new anymore, really. The prices have gone astray. I'm not surprised, to be honest, that Attons have not folded because he's not gone bankrupt. He's just quit trading. I don't blame him. I honestly don't know how people in the right minds are paying the prices for the new stuff. It's astronomically charged. I've just been looking at second-hand prices though, and they're going up stupid again. They're creeping up silly at the moment. Lima Class 40s now are about 50 quid. Oh, I weren't buying that for them brand new. I weren't paying that for them brand new in the 90s, and mine second hand. I think they were about. I think the Lima Class 40 when it come out in the 90s was about 30 quid, I'd guess, 30, 40 quid. Yeah, 150 for a terrier's ridiculous. I dispute that it's like that with everything, Mick. Because if you look on eBay, I got some lighting for me videoing and stuff. And it's Chinese, but it's about, I think it was about 22 quid or something for 2 lighting units. Now they've had to research, they've had to design, develop, they've done the electrics, worked out, and there's a lot of stuff from China you look at. Now the argument is, but it's Chinese. The model railway stuff is all Chinese now. And it's coming from the same place where they're doing stuff like for peanuts and posting it to you for nothing on eBay. And you're like, well, they've had to pay development. They might not be the finest, but that's the problem now, mate. I'm not kidding. You know, I work in the health industry, and the stuff we got from China, when we did eventually get stuff, and it were all from China, and the biggest percentage of it, it's a bag of shit. Well, I'm not kidding you. We got a batch of aprons once, Mick. Loads of aprons, none of them we could fucking use. We had boxes of them with head holes that were about that big. So you had to pull them open. If you pulled them open, it ripped them. G'day, Dave. First time I've seen you. Yeah, the quality of the stuff we got from China during COVID on the ward, it was a bag of shit. I think we're getting this again already this week. See how it pans out. It's not been insulting so far. But yeah, the stuff we're about. We got some aprons, they were like tissue paper. Soon as you touched them, they fell apart. But yeah, there's a lot in the hobby at the moment. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot from China that's crap, like some real. But like, there's been ones on, which one were it? The Duchess, City of London from Hornby. That guy that bought it, he bought one, he'd had a bogey, the pony truck had fell off in the box. He were full of glue marks. He'd had loads of problems and he sent it back and they replaced it with one out of another batch with all the same problems. Which is, it's disgusting really. For how much you pay for that, I think it were a 200 and odd quid locomotive. If you're paying 200 and odd quid, it's almost a week's wages. It should be right. It should be spot on for that money. For all you called the old Hornby that were made in England, it didn't fall to pieces in the box. It was well made. It just weren't that detailed, and that's where we have to get a grip. There has to be a compromise between detail and running good, and consistently good, and being able to repair it. Evening, Valleys. Hope you're keeping well. Yeah, I'm just considering ordering some plates for a Great Western local I'm doing. Still on the table. Where is it? Body at least. Oh, I'll put the body down here. That one. Gradually getting it done. I've done the top. It had some sort of stupid form housing at the top, but I'm going to be doing the repairs on it, and I think I'll weather it. Next door's dog. Yeah, I think it is, Valleys. Next door's dog's getting shouted at. Apparently, it won't lie down. Yeah, no, it is not complying. Yeah, it's a what do you call it? It's a border collie. Good luck with that. They're not the greatest family. They're a lovely dog, but they're not the greatest family pets. If they can be a bit overbearing. That little one you have, Mick's a nutcase compared. Yeah, your husky's laid back, and that one's bloody. I love your husky. I could put up with him, and he's gorgeous. But the other one, it's a bleeding lunatic. That one, Mick. Husky's gorgeous, and then there's that one. He's a good lad. He's my best mate, you Husky. I know I can tell. I've never seen it come near you. Never seen it come near. If it's ever in the same room as you, it's at the other side of the room. Astro's beautiful. I love Astro. I'd have him any day. Beautiful. He is spoiled. Whose Ginty is it, Hornby? Oh, good day. Good day to you in Canada, Dave. Yeah, is it an Hornby Ginty or triangle type? Or it's an Hornby one, that. I've got an LMS Hornby Ginty on the workbench. That should be coming up soon. I just want to service it and do some body repairs. It's got steps missing, so I've got another body to cut the steps off and glue them onto the... Yeah, mine's not in its first flushes of youth, pal. Mine's I'd say mine's a 1970s, 80s one, at a rough guess. In the LMS purple livery it's in. Well, Crimson Lake. Dave in Canada, it's not Dave on Scott Rails, is it? Who, what? Maybe not. There's a Dave in Canada called Scott. I'm sure he's called Dave's, who has the Scott Rail channel. Thought you might have been him, maybe not. Yeah, the yellow cab interior. It has the separate clipping cab details, pal. I'd say it's 1980s at a guess. The problem with the steps is I want to put some reinforcement behind them, and you've got very limited clearance behind them because the wheels move sideways to accommodate for corners and stuff, so there's very limited clearance between the wheels and the steps. I think a bit of brass angle will go between them just for that extra bit of support, because just gluing the steps on, you've only got a small area if you're not putting something in to support it. Yeah, that's what you've got to do. A 90-degree angle, bend it to a 90-degree angle and glue it onto the foot plate so you have some support for them. I've got one at the moment. I've got a nice local. I got it for nothing, and that's going to come up soon. It's got one nameplate missing off the one I want to repair, but it's missing the steps at the front, and I bought that body to repair it, and I'm gonna sort of, hang on, turn it that way, that's it. I'm gonna cut it down the foot plate there at the top edge on one, top edge on the one I'm binning, and bottom edge, so it mounts on, and I have that bit there for support. Should make up a nice loco. Good evening, Scooby. Yeah, that's a good idea as well, Valleys. Yeah, Dave, what displays would you be on about? Yeah, most of them are plastic, Dave. What have you been up to today, Scooby? Anything or nothing? I've been up to a whole heap of nothing. I've not even today. Me too, Scooby. I've not even been round my local shop to harass them. I don't like the new people that have my local shop anyway. They're a bunch of arseholes. They were nice folks that had it before and they were good in the community. This lot are a bunch of arseholes. They're from outside the area and they're not good. Girl who had the flat above the off licence has been given a marching orders to give up the flat. It sure is, Dave. Yeah, the old Army double O a die cast. There's not a great many nowadays that use die cast. Which is a pity because it was good for weight for traction. But I suppose it's harder for them to glue detail onto die cast. It's easy with plastic, gluing plastic to plastic. Yeah, if it were die cast, Dave, it would. If it were British, it were probably an Army double. All right, do computer aided design stuff. Oh, cool, Valleys. Who's that made by, Valleys? The Kerr Stewart. I'm assuming that'll be a shunting loco. Or a switcher, as Dave probably knows them as. More than likely. An industrial loco. I like industrials. Well, you saw that one. I've just got the little Sentinel shunter. That's a cool little model. That's not a bad price if it's well made, Valleys. Yeah, you see, the problem with today's prices, I wouldn't mind paying the prices if they were well engineered, good quality, and they're just not. Yeah, thing is though, Scooby, this girl weren't. She were quiet. She were in the flat for years, and she were quiet, never bothered anybody. Like always paid her way and everything, but they just wanted their own kind of. They're not nice people with people. I've been in their assholes to serve me. If I'll only go in the shop now as an American. I used to more or less do all my shopping there because I couldn't be asked going into town. But now I go into town and I only use it if there's an emergency. If I really need somewhere and it's too late to go anywhere else. Ah, cool. I wouldn't know where to start with Cad Valley. Something new you and Dave have on me. I'd probably pick it up, but I haven't the patience nowadays. I used to do loads in Photoshop and art and I haven't got the patience for that now. Oh, that's me out of the window then, Dave. I wouldn't have I wouldn't have the patience, I'll be fully honest. Next month I'm getting the last wood I have to get for layout, and I'm making a start on getting this one, the boards complete. Then I can make a start on getting tracks down. Yeah, it probably is, Dave. I've no need dying. There's some stuff now, it's so smart on the. You're seeing really now, to a degree, a lot of the cottage industries returning, but they're doing different things now. If you look at Sam's Trains, you know something, if that Sam's Trains, if he decided to build a local and sell it, he could give some of the regular ones, a run for the money. Because he's designed and made some of his own locals that have been cracking. I've just been looking at Lima locals, Valley. They're starting rising, for sure. People are clicking on that all Hornby are, the modern Hornby, are Lima bodies with their own running gear in, but Hornby's own running gear is modern Chinese stuff, and you can't service it like you could with Lima. It's not as cheap to service as Lima was. And Lima now you can get, if you have a Lima, you can get the replacement CD locals CD motors to go in them. Geez, that takes some experience, Dave. I remember back in the 90s, I used to do warehousing and I learned DOS and everything for doing databases like typing it up. I couldn't be arsed with all that shit nowadays. The old floppy disk, I'll never forget when I was doing that job and I was training and learning DOS and everything. We used to be sat in we had a mock up of an office and it had a computer at back end. And the boss used to walk past and go, "All right, lads, are you busy at it?" And we go, "Yeah, we're just doing this database." And computer had its back to him. There's us lot sat there playing lemmings. Used to be sat playing lemmings and he thought we were wicked. Yeah, it's It's a thing that's mostly lost to me now. But yeah, I used it for databases and stuff. I didn't delve too deeply into it, Dave, but I was like, I went in one day and the lad were doing all the stuff and he got it all laid out. He had days of working it and he says to me, how do you save this? I said, I think you press that. I pressed it and he lost the fucking. I'm like, oh shit, you probably don't. Yeah. Yeah, it's like that. The last ones I had, I honestly threw away. I think, yeah, I threw them away. I had an Amiga and that was all stuff on floppies. They got binned. And I had boxes of discs that I had no idea what were on them. I had loads of games and everything. And I mean, be honest, when we first started with computers, when we were kids, we had the Sinclair and I had a Commodore and everything were on tapes. But back then, could you see computing going where it's gone today? I would never have dreamt it. Yeah, I think they did. It's because of the magnetic storage on it. I mean, if you work it out, the Earth's all magnetic fields, so it's bound to interfere with it over years. Oh God, do you ever? The worst bit was waiting about an hour for it to load up. Then the gobshite didn't work. Oh, yeah, sat there for an hour. Then your game didn't work. Oh, nightmare. But then, when you think about it, the hour you sat there, and it was awful. But even if it did load, the crap you had like Space Invaders, it had taken about an hour to load. That now, if you loaded it on a normal PC, it'd be ding, boom, loaded, play. Oh God, yeah. The specky with rubber keys. I had I had what is probably a rarity nowadays. I had a Commodore that was a disk drive. I had to and what a pain it was to find games for that. Everyone else were on tapes, and I had mine on a disk drive. Luckily for me, Ocean that did the games were in Manchester, so I just had to go up to Ocean's offices in Manchester and ask them if they did it on disc. Hey, you're getting too much into technicalities for me there, Dave. Jesus. Yeah, they would have been originally, because the old CNCs were introduced, what? It must have been 50s and 60s. Ah, right. Cheers, Dave. Yeah, Ocean had quite a few. Ocean had quite a few games. They were based in Manchester city centre. I popped to their offices one time to swap a game with them. They were pretty helpful, really, Ocean. My PS1 broke down eventually, but I had mine chipped so it could play. I were one of the naughty ones. I had mine chipped so I could play counterfeit games. Because a PS1 without being chipped wouldn't play counterfeit games. But if you chipped it, it'd play them. Jeez, yeah. Not kidding, Dave. Punch card program. Very old school valleys. I've got a PS2, Andy. I can't say I had a PS1. Don't have that now. And I had a Amiga and Commodore 64. Don't have that. God, today's games, could you? It's like I said, you imagine now getting excited like you did for Space Invaders, looking at what we have now. Looking at the games we have now, would you ever imagine back in them days you'd have had the quality of games you have now and the size of the playing environments? Even small playing environments are vast compared to the original games. Yeah, I've not looked into PS4. I mean, PS2 and possibly PS3 are as far as I'd go. Oh, God, Space Invaders, when you're in. Space Invaders was something that come up when I were just in school and going into my drinking days, when I were getting into pubs and stuff. So you had the machines in pubs when I was younger. We used to have one of the machines in my local pub, and it was one of the tabletop ones. And you could sit either side of it playing Space Invaders, and you had your pint on the table on machine at the same time. Happy days. Yeah, it is, mate. It is, Dave. I had a demo version of Driver, Mick, and I couldn't really get into it. I loved stuff like Gran Turismo. I played all them through to the end. I like Medieval. I played the medieval series through to the end. What's the wartime one called? I played a lot of them through to the end. Hi, Flymore. How you doing? Oh, cool. Nice one. I bet that's a cool place to go, Valley. You can say that again, Andy. Amazing the progress there's been on computers. I've got to admit, if anything we're developing, it frightens you what'll come in the next 10 years for computers. Never mind 30 or 40. Yeah, there were two lads in flat upstairs from me, Valleys, used to do the BBC Micro. And Brian, one of the lads, he forever had long lists of programming stuff. Morrowind and Nether Skulls it's a bit beyond me, that one, Dave. I've not heard of them. I know that's a frightening thought. Hey, Valleys, you missed the word allegedly out of that. Because the more I grow older, the more I'd love to think we have done, and I'd love, because it was such a big thing in my childhood. It was wow, but as I get older, I get more cynical. Ah, you've still you've still got me there, Dave. They're not games I've heard. Yeah, oh, Andy, I used to watch the lads that did that, and I thought, how the do you have patience to do that? Tetris in its own right, you're right, mate. It was very addictive. Ah, now, Valleys, you reach one of my points about it. Everyone saw the Saturn V. We all saw it go into orbit. But I asked the question, why have we never been further than going into orbit since? And I talk about manned flight, not unmanned. There's obviously ones gone to Mars and everything. But I'm talking unmanned flight. Why have we never progressed past orbiting the Earth? Oh, Paul. Oh, God. I'm not entirely convinced, if you've ever seen a photo of her, that woman's a woman anyway, but that's something that's debatable. But whichever way you look at it, she should never have been given that honour for all that happened in the post office. There's people that took their own lives through their bloody blunders, and blaming those people for being thieves and everything. She should never have got that on her. Syntax. You know, you used to get her things, and then you went, "Oh shit, where the shit is it?" And you had to read through everything, double check everything again. No, I didn't play Skyrim, Dave. It's a mystery to me, fella. Yeah, I fully agree, Valleys. I think the politicians that are in since the 90s have been a real bed of corruption. I mean, they were corrupt before, but this modern lot, how the hell do you have one woman that's being looked into for, is it something stupid like 20 million of deception? How do you get away with 20 million of deception? Yeah, that's the one, Andy. And that's the frightening thing, Dave. They don't bother hiding it now. We had one Labour politician over here in the UK, Dave, and she were turning up to vote on important matters for the country, and she had a bracelet on her leg from the probation service, from the police, so they knew where she were. She had a curfew to be in, and she had it for fraud, and she were allowed to continue working as a politician. If I got done for anything in my line of work, I wouldn't work again. And I'm a damn sight more useful to people than a politician because I work in hospitals and stuff. Politicians just hinder people. What what international presence is that, Dave? Don't get me wrong, I love Canada. I think it's a fantastic place. But yeah, I know what you mean. You're fairly quiet on an international stage. But yeah, Canada is fairly quiet on an international stage compared to a lot. I don't know. I've not looked into how you're friendly or not, Dave. Apparently, from what my dad said before he died, what he was saying, I could have been Canadian or South African. He had offers to go to both countries. Fantastic. Fantastic, Valleys. But you know, the thing is though, Valleys, she's not in charge of making laws for the rest of us. And the thing is, politicians, once you're found guilty of fraud as a politician or any crime, you're making laws for everyone else to abide by. You should be sacked. It should be a no brainer. You shouldn't work again if you're found guilty of crimes. Like I say, if I were found... There's a guy who wanted to work doing... And he's an older guy now. And he wanted to work doing social care like I do, working with disabled in the community. And they wouldn't let him because he has his criminal record. And his criminal record was for when he was a teenager, early 20s, for getting in a fight with another lad in town. What bearing does that have on you when you get to 40 and you've calmed down and you won't work? Because you had a fight with another lad when you were in your teens, 20s. Jesus, if I'd been caught for anything, I'd not work again. Fucking hell, Andy. Paul, drink Canada Dry. I'll give it a good try. I've never had any issues with them. Who on earth lets a 6-year-old steer? Unless you're on the beach with nobody on it, you can't do that now round here. They used to use allowed cars on Southport Beach. They don't do that anymore. Like we young uns at one time, we took motorcycles on Southport Beach, and my mate found a patch of quicksand and his bike started sinking. We had to tow him out. Yeah, but piss driving and letting a 6-year-old... You know, there's ones like that, they've no brains. Yeah, that's... You know, years ago, we used to do tricks like that. Well, you know the next one coming, don't you, Andy? Prepare for shock. Prepare for shock horror, but they probably don't have any. You know, fantastic. Deary me, Dave. Yeah, that's the frightening thing, I think. Oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, Andy, but that's the unfortunate thing. I think you'll find they're not insured, and even if they were, the insurance company won't cough up because she's pissed and had a 6-year-old steering it. The only way you get the insurance company to pay up is if she's admitted to driving herself and she was sober. Because the insurance company will instantly say, oh, she was... But I'm afraid you'll probably find it's your own insurance that'll foot the bill or come out of the pot for uninsured drivers. Scratching your head from the inside. I probably do that regular, Mick. Oh, God, I wonder what joys await me in work tomorrow. What fun and games. I've got myself a new diary to write me rota down in. That's a crocker shit, isn't it, Andy? Crocker shit. When I had I had a motorcycle stolen and they didn't turn up. It's a, it's an absolute joke. Absolute joke it is. I had one stolen. The police didn't find it. My mates found me bike when it was stolen. Told me on Facebook. They put it up for sale. And they asked me, "Is this your bike?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, and they bottled out he were going to go around and check it for me. But they bottled out and didn't tell him where they lived. But I knew it was my bike. It had all the marks where mine had marks. Cheeky, because they'd stripped all the good parts I'd built onto it, though. They stripped the suspension off it, they stripped the race exhaust off. All the good parts I'd put on were stripped. Yeah, the dicks, valleys, I know what you mean. The dicks will be dancing in the street with rainbow bloody helmets and shit. And like, they'll be nicking people for calling people names. And meanwhile, people are getting stabbed. Bloody theft is rife, and they're not solving any of the important issues. They're going on, "He's called me a name." Yeah, he's called me a name. We'll be round in 5 seconds. I've been stabbed, or stop complaining. You know, it's ridiculous, Scooby. The ridiculous thing is, the bike I had stolen, I decided not to claim on because the amount I'd have got had made it more negative towards me no claims. I'd have got less money by paying out for the bike than I'd have lost in no claims when I insured another. So it were pointless claiming. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's sad, Andy. Awful. I had a DT50. I actually, because a friend helped me out, I gave it to him because he was stuck for transport to work. But I had a DT50 MX, I think it was. Yeah, sounds familiar, Valleys. They're a set of cowards. They won't turn up when it's actually happening. They're frightened. Bloody hell, if you called the police in the 70s and 80s in Manchester, they were bigger villains than the villains. They'd have thrown you in the back of a transit and beat the shit out of you. I were on the finishing straights recently of finishing an Honda CB250 Deluxe, and it were a nice one. I'd powder coated the frame. I'd had every single nut and bolt. Anodized, not anodized. What is it? Zinc plated. I'd had all the nuts zinc plated. Bolts, all the ancillary zinc plated. I'd cleaned everything up. I'd checked all the wiring room. Re-wrapped the wiring loom. Cleaned everything. Getting it ready for reassembly. And having the spray job done and decals, and I thought, you know something, by the time I finish this, it'll be that pretty. I'll have it 10 minutes and some dick will nick it or vandalise it. And I thought, no, sell it as a going concern. Yeah, it was a vintage Honda, Dave. It would have been a nice one, but I thought, if I finish this and have it stood outside, or it's parked outside for any length of time with me away from it, it'll get vandalised or thieved. Some jealous fucker would scratch it, or somebody would think, oh, I want to go with that and pinch it. I thought, nah. Well done, Andy. If more people did that today, break the little bastard's fingers so they can't go out thieving. It's shame that's it. My last bike was a very nice bike, very fast and stuff. It was a lovely bike, but I couldn't leave it outside anywhere. I couldn't leave it outside my own home because they did go walk it. I got worried about if I went out somewhere, if it'd be back, if it'd be there so I could get back home. So I just sold it. I've sold it on. You're right, Dave. You're right, Dave. And it was a really nice bike. Well done, Valleys. The thing is now, though, you've got so many people on the side of, oh, if I do something, I'll get a criminal record myself and all that lot. Just beat the shit out of them. It's a 99% chance they're not going to say anything. Because if they do, you can come back with, well, he were in my house thieving. So then they're in court as well. So they're not going to say out. Just beat the crap out of them. Well done. Yeah. Yeah, there's some crafty stuff they do, Scooby. But that's why the theft thing and the fact that they'd stopped scaring me was a worrying thing as well. I was thinking nothing of doing 60 and dropping a couple of gears and lifting front wheel. Yeah, drop a gear or two and lift front wheel. I thought, I'm not going to live long doing shit like this. Fantastic. Unfortunately, it is the way, Mick. Because half of them will still go out robbing the day after. And once they know you have bikes, they'll pay return visits and see if you've got something nicer. So eventually they will have it while you're out and about or whatever. Because 99% of crime, if you've been robbed once, they'll come back again because they know they can do it. And they know you replace it. So if you broke their legs or their fingers, you know they can't do it for a bit. Where do you live, Scooby? Forgotten, where do you live again, Scooby? Yeah, it's ridiculous, Dave. Nelson, that's not to brag about. Nelson's not that big. All right, I'm not a million miles off you, Scooby. I used to do a lot of delivering up that way. Blackburn, Burnley, Nelson, Colne, all that way on. I used to pick up and deliver to engineering companies. That's what I mean. It's not a huge bragging Nelson, but it's a good wheeler. 300 yard is a damn good wheeler. They could do it though, else's. The thing though is though, Scooby, it's a lightweight bike. Mine were an heavyweight thing. Mine were a 600 4-cylinder. The speed and the torque you have to get to lift their front wheel up, you're eating road bloody fast. That's the frightening thing, Dave. I were getting less and less scared of doing it when I should have been getting more worried. Because I sat down one night and I thought, with all the other stuff, the theft and everything and that, I thought, I'm getting too old for this shit. My eyesight's failing. I've got bad hands. I've got disabilities in hands. I'm not a young lad anymore and I'm pissing about like I were 18. Yeah, 40 years. We're a lot more able 40 years ago. The trouble is, when you're older, you still think you're able and you're not. You don't have the same reflexes, you don't have the same energy, you're not as strong. Oh, that'd be nice, Dave. I have a few sailboats. I've got about 6 or 7 star yachts. You might not know what they are in Canada. I don't think they'll have got, they may have done, but I don't think they'll have got across to Canada. I don't know whether Star exported or they were just a UK. Exactly what, have I got one close by? Yeah, just give me a second. Ow, 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 ow. Yeah, for Dave. Dave that doesn't know what a star yacht is. They were a British thing. I don't think they'd have got across to Canada. But I've got about 6 or 7 of them. Interesting little things. Yeah, not double O gauge. They're bigger than double O gauge. No, they were actually what it was. It was a guy that was he was a refugee during war. He was an Eastern European, and some guy called Adolf were after him at the time. And he came here to Britain, and he set up a company making pond yachts. And he made them out of wood and like fabric sails, obviously cotton sails, and they were an institution really here in the UK. If you went anywhere in the UK at the seaside, they always had star yachts in the shop. Like seaside towns, they always had star yachts in the shop somewhere. Yeah, you more or less. Yeah, you more or less hit that one, Valleys. Most lads that visited the seaside in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they'll have had star yachts. They were a nice bike, Andy. An RD200DX. I've ridden an RD200. Yeah, it probably is something that's great to do. I've never actually had a go, but I'd imagine it's great fun yachting. I've been on a few cross-channel ferries, Dave, and I've been on them in really rough weather. That's entertaining when everyone around you's puking and they take one look at you that's fine and drinking a pint or eating a bacon and egg sandwich and they puke. I've yet to try one of those cats, Valleys. I've been on the Irish ferry when it was just a ferry in, must have been late 60s, early 70s. And that was a rough crossing. The Irish Sea is notorious for being rough. And it was a rough crossing, and everybody on that ship were green. And I were a kid, and I were running up and down, laughing, having a great time. My dad was saying, "Stop fucking about all these. Stop pissing about. You're making all these worse." They'd watch me run past, laughing, and go, "Bleh." Can't fault you, Valleys. Yeah, it don't bother me. The funniest thing I ever saw on a boat, I were on a fishing. Well, I went on a day out fishing with my mate, and we were on one of my friend's fishing boats. And he took us out to the fishing spot, casting, and my mate, he went, "I'm just going getting some bait." And I said, fetch me an handful back. So he walks back, he's got his handful in one hand and my handful in another. And all of a sudden you saw him go, and he just goes, I'll never forget the image of him. He's got both hands out like that, with his head over side puking. I thought, just ditch the bait and go for another handful after you've puked. Oh, I've watched sidecars. I love sidecars, pal. I've got some nice photographic shots of them. I've watched sidecar racing a couple of times at British Superbike meets. I love watching sidecars. They are entertaining. I'll tell you what, Andy. I bought a KH250 for 25 quid. And it weren't running brilliantly. It had a problem I never found. If I'd had it now, with my mechanical knowledge now, I'd have found it and fixed it. But you know something, 25 quid for a Kawasaki KH250. Jeez. If only I had that now. It'd have probably fetched 10 times that. In fact, more. That wouldn't have been unusual. Furniture. Slag. Is Mick still in the house? I've not seen Mick shout for a bit. Conga. Bloody hell, I've never done conga. When I was there, I got plenty of black brain for day. Plenty of mackerel. What were the others I got? Oh, pollock. And I even got a dogfish. But never done conga. The best place for conga's wreck fishing. Well done, Valleys. I've had a couple of moggy miners go through me hands. One of them I picked up, it was more rust than moggy miner. Mickey, in the house. I've not seen you for ages. Ah, right, I've seen you further off. Further up. I know what's happened to him now. Fantastic. I believe they're a bitch to pull up when you hook into them, especially if they're in a wreck. I've got to admit, I wouldn't fancy trying to one-up one after. The vicious little vicious little sods, apparently. Bloody hell, Andy. Shit luck without sometimes. I don't know. Looking at a lot of them today and what they're doing today, I'd rather have Maggie as an option. Things weren't perfect under her, but she did give working people more options than this set of slimy bastards. And it's not just the Tories, the Labour are as bad now. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds tasty. Yeah, dogfish are buggers to unhook. Especially one I got. It weren't a small one, the one I got. Got it on deck and I went, oh, I went to grab it with my bare hands. They goes, don't, leave it alone. Because apparently dogfish, the scales are like sandpaper. Yeah, we do. I think Maggie really, I think it's time really now to stop the Maggie bashing because we've had a lot in since her that were a lot worse and they've done a lot more lasting damage than she ever did. And Labour's one of the ones that did it. A lot of people say, oh, the stuff the Tories are doing to the NHS. Sorry, you have to look in another direction. Because Labour took away the safeguards so they couldn't privatise the NHS. And then Labour were responsible for the biggest privatisation going in the NHS. And Andy Burnham, and Labour, we now have him as Mayor of Manchester, he actually privatised the full NHS hospital that the Tories had to take back into the NHS. So yeah, don't have a go at Maggie. There's been worse since. And unfortunately, it was the red camp. I'll tell you what, there's a lot more Labour. I'm pretty neutral, really. I just vote who I think will be best at the moment. And to be honest, none of the above are any good. None of the above are fit for the job at the moment. The Tories aren't, and the Labour are a worse option. So where do you go? No, I wouldn't trust any. And I've always said, as I get older, I'm convinced now that if our votes actually mattered, we'd have never been allowed to do it. Because whoever you get in, they're all only following orders from above, and that above is the civil service. And the civil service is never changed. And the civil service tell the politicians what they're doing. So in that case, it doesn't matter whether you've got Labour's or Tory in. The civil service are pulling the strings. The Tories, while Boris in, tried getting rid of that, and people were stupid enough to stop him doing it. Fault Boris all you want, but he was trying to make things better for the people. He was trying to get rid of all that in the civil service. And people were stupid enough to kick him out. Laughing at Dave's fishing story. Oh, the fishing stories I have over the years. I don't know what sort of fish the Mariah is, but yeah, it is. We're doomed. Yeah, exactly, Andy. Politicians have Politicians, whether Labour or Tory, have no say in the matter. There's people above them that are ruling the country. Politicians are just there as a mouthpiece. But you look at history, did they ever do it Thatcher for miners and that? The sad fact is, coal were dead. British Railways had stopped using it in any numbers. They'd gone to diesel. You'd got everybody were going over to North Sea gas. There were wide-scale introductions of smokeless zones. So coal were dead in the water, really, as a fuel. And it sounds daft, but it were more economically viable for them to import it than to have overproduction in our own country of a thing that weren't needed as much as it once was. Yeah, very true, Dave. You know, the way the world's going, Valleys, I won't put it past them. I wouldn't. And a reason I think that, and I've thought for years, the world's elites are together. And you think they're fighting against each other. But really, I've always viewed wars as the elite's population cults. It's never the ones at the top that are killed. It's always like young Johnny from the council estates and the ne'er-do-well areas. Send him off to the front line. Yeah, it's true, Andy. Very true. And what people don't see, or not a lot of people see, all the things that are in, like lack of money, lack of food, this, that, and the other, it'll never affect the rich and the ones at the top, all the immigration. They never take them into the areas they're living in. They'll always put them in the inner cities and that. And they're the ones that are the sat there going, oh, this immigration is good for the country. Well, and I love people from abroad. They don't even live amongst them. I mean, I get away along with anyone. I work with all sorts of people and I get along with them. But most of them are legal immigrants. And I've had legal immigrants turn round to me and say, a lot of these people that are coming in now are dangerous people and I'm worried about my kids. So they're from the mouth of their own countrymen. Very much so. Well, we've got away from model railways tonight, I think. I very much think so. But all this we're talking about and everything, it's all interlinked because all this we've talked about now, it's stuff they make excuses for putting the prices up. You see, you get told, I don't want to talk about politics, it has nothing to do with. It has everything. Politics affects everything. If you took politicians out of the equation, we could deal with Europe tomorrow on an even footing because everybody wants to trade with each other. Europeans want to buy stuff off us. We want to buy stuff off the Europeans. Like, we want to buy stuff off Japan. They want stuff off us. It all goes hand in hand. No businessman ever said they don't want to do business. It's the politicians that make everything as hard as possible because they want to be dipping the pockets and creaming off it. Yeah. And the politicians, the biggest parasites, because they're the ones that want to get money for, let's face it, all they do is sit around speaking and that. They're not doing any physical work. In fact, they're not even doing any particularly hard work. They're giving opinions, and most of them aren't necessarily true. Like, you'll see a politician and you'll think, oh, yeah, I agree with him. So, like a lot of people, they were saying, oh, Corbyn, going back to Corbyn, oh, Corbyn is a man of the people, he's got an allotment. Yeah, but have you seen his house in London and all that? He's not a poor man, he's not an humble man. He's amongst the rich. If he's got his own house in London, he's rich. I'll tell you what, Dave. I had sex with a woman the other night, and I were proper going for it. I took my time on. Oh, it was fantastic. And she said to me, she says, "Do you want to finish your brew before you leave?" I said, "No, thanks. It's still too hot yet." And I had a girlfriend one time. She said, "Do you fancy a threesome?" I said, "Oh, top woman." She said, "Which one of me mates do you fancy?" And apparently, Gemma and Susan is the wrong answer. Don't know why that was. Yeah, she were pissed off at that. Oh dear. But Tish. Could you imagine that though? Having a missus saying that and you said, "Oh, I fancy Gemma and Susan." Hang on, wait a minute. Working it out. Know where I get them from. But Tish, it's a drummer. I can believe it. Where I get that from, there's a guy on YouTube, and he does shorts. He does recipes for making things. And he's always calling his missus on it. And he does all these jokes as he's giving. It's a funny channel. He's making cheesecake and all sorts for his missus. He actually calls his missus the warder. He's a funny lad. But he does recipes like sandwiches and like cooked sandwiches and cheesecake and all. Oh, they look lush, the stuff he cooks. But all the time he's saying, "Here, I'm in trouble with the warder again." But yeah, he's a very funny lad. If you can find him, I can't think of his channels now. But he makes like sandwiches and cheesecakes, for instance. But he's wit all the way through. Very humorous. Oh, 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 the more I'm thinking of that, the more I'm chuckling, Scooby. Oh, God, don't I just? Yeah, get stuff to show. Usually on after Casey Kasem's top 30 or whatever. Yeah, I remember Get Stuffed. Casey Kasem, then bloody Get Stuffed. Them were the days. He was like a student's cookery program that told you how to make a meal out of whatever shit you had left in the fridge. Some of them did look quite good, but it was on like just common items you'd have left in a fridge, like half a tin of beans and a potato, whatever. But they did actually look good. How long were that were it about 10 minutes or something it last? It weren't a long programme, were it? It were about 10 minutes. Yeah, quite. It might have been on after Married with Children. I think it were on after Casey Kasem as well. My, my mate went to the It Man and Her when they were at local disco. James, one of the lads I know, and he were really one of the lads. He were a funny lad. We used to laugh at him. And he was stood next to the stage, and he just put his hands up and stroked down Michaela Strachan's thigh, not thigh, calf. And she turned round to him and went, "Knock it off." And James, he stood there with a bottle of champagne going, "Hey, hey." He were a shit, he was. But yeah, he just stroked the back of Michaela Strachan's calf. Oh, I'd like to do that. Well, no. But she's still pretty now. Not as pretty as my all-time favourite though, Jenny. She was pretty. Jenny, I can't think of a second name. Her now on. Oh, Jenny Powell. Her on No Limits. If you remember No Limits, she actually got the gig because she entered a competition to win being a presenter. It's proper chuffed. Hello, proper chuffed. How we doing, Cocker? Oh, now Jenny Agutter. Oh, yes. Oh. Did you ever watch? And I bet you come up with a name before I say it. Did you watch Walkabout? Oh, hi. Hello. I was laughing at one the other day. Oh, which one is it? The only fools and horses. That was it. Trigger when he says, I used to fancy her. When they mentioned Agatha Christie, he said, I used to fancy her. Said what? Agatha Christie? The crime woman? He says, yeah. And he says, what? You mean the old lady with pills? Yeah. He says, her that was in Dr. Zhivago. And they all go, fuck's sake, you mean Julie Christie? There you go, Walkabout. Mentioned it without an hesitation. It certainly does have a very interesting scene. It's not actually a bad film either, really. It shows how harsh Oz can be, though. Harsh, harsh and big country, Oz. I watched that one the other day as well. It's Poitiers. No, it's not. It's Potter. It's Poitiers. No, it's not. It's Potter. Dalboy. How do you say his name? Is it Sidney Poitier or Sidney Potter? Well, personally, I think it's Harry Belafonte. Oh, killed me. Oh my God. Valleys, you've lost it. Yeah, it is. I try running it so you can have a laugh. I've been barred off ones that we'll talk model railways as much as we can and broach into other stuff. Some people buy you for. I'm not mentioning names, but I were barred off one just because I used capital letters. I thought, oh, stop being pedants. It's a hobby and a bit of fun, for God's sake. They were like, you know what? Capitals. They didn't even wait for me to explain, but I have problems with my hands. And sometimes it takes me all my time to type, and sometimes I forget I've left capitals on, and I'll type something out in capitals, and I can't be asked with the time it'd take me to type again to delete it and redo it. Yeah, Rita Sue and Bob, you couldn't make that today. Rita Sue and Bob too, cracking film. Like one of them, well, a couple of them did quite well after. Quite possibly. Well, the last film I went to see, I went watching Ferrari the other day with my mate. I'd well recommend it, but I think it should be rated 18 rather than 15 because there's a gory scene in it. And it is gory. I think it's a bit much for 15-year-olds. I think it should have had an 18 rating, but by the by, it's a good film. Go and watch it. And the makeup they must have done to Penelope Cruz. She's made up, and I'm sure she's made up to look older than she is, because I got halfway through and I went, that's Penelope Cruz, isn't it? And I fancy Penelope Cruz. Oh, along with what's the other girl's name that were in Dawn Till Dusk, Salma Hayek. Ooh. Cool. Yes, Scooby. Totally. They totally got it right. I've lived in places like that. And the scene where the neighbours were arguing, it's spot on. Yeah, I know, but I'd debate whether anybody under 17 should be allowed a mobile. Oh, cool, Scooby. Valleys, I struggle with English some days, never mind trying Chinese. I get confused enough by the English, never mind starting on foreign stuff. But yeah, honestly, if you've not given it a watch, that Ferrari, the new film's worth a watch. It's a bit slow going at first, but it gets more interesting as it goes along. It's more it's more of a portrayal of the Ferrari family than of the cars itself, although the cars do play a part. Oh God, you've lost me. I never watch any of these valleys. I dare say they are though. Should imagine they are. You know what I love? Talking about lip syncs. Some of the have you ever listened to the old podcasts of Ricky Gervais and Cal Pilkington and Steve Merchant? They were talking, they did a part that were called Monkey News. And like Ricky Gervais were telling them, he says, what they used to do with the chimpanzees, they used to put peanut butter on the pallet at the top. So they'd be like that trying to get it off, and they looked like they were talking. And I think it was Carl Pilkington turned round and said something like, he says, that's what they do with a Castor Brookside. Oh, funny. Yeah, they used to call it hedge palm. Yeah. Now while we're here, who watches the Tales of Piddle Folk or whatever it is? I'm just seeing which one of us watch the Tales of Piddlefork. I think it's Piddlefork. His actual real channel, his serious one, is Piddle in the Marsh. He's a very humorous bloke. Very humorous bloke and a bit saucy. And it's a bit of fun. He says that gets more viewing than his serious channel, Piddle in the Marsh, or whatever it's called. That one gets more views than his serious one. I've heard some of the stuff he comes out with tickles me. He's funny. Full of double entendres. even, even the woman that introduces it is called Denny Tremble or Denny Tremble. Very witty lad. He has to be sitting there and writing a script out for that. I can't see him just coming out with that on the hoof. If he does, he's good at, what is it they call it? Oh, flipping heck, what's the name? For when you make stuff up on the hoof. There's an actual name for it. Improv. It's improv, isn't it? No, he's very clever how he does it, Andy. It's a nice I didn't realise until the other day that it's a little N-gauge layout. I thought it was double O. It's very well made layout for N. Scooby, your old man was a professional pervert. So all you weren't actually told off for going reading them. You were told off because you weren't putting them back in order. Now that you've got to laugh. Yeah, fantastic. He is good. Yeah, but I'm saying not for reading them, just for putting them back in the wrong order. I'll tell you what, my dad's stash, it was like ping pong. I'd rob it and hide it in my room, and he'd rob it and hide it in his room. The pair of us, it was like ping pong. We're like, that bastard's had it again. I don't care who you, every lad's the same. We all had the same lust when we were younger. Lock appears on the cupboard, you think, he's on to me. He's rumbled me. Yeah, I thought he hadn't noticed. My dad didn't find my hiding point under the. I had a loose floorboard, and I used to take carpet up, loose floorboard, put them under, put it back down. Oh, Andy! Oh dear. Yeah, that can be the case. Oh dear. That's it. We were all lads on back in the day, and let's face it, we passed the 9 o'clock watershed now. Crumb. I'm going back to Valley's name there. That's one that always tickled me. Grumble Mags. Oh, this is gold, this. It's all stuff you used to do as lads. I'll never forget one time. I must have been, 17? And I used to have a motorcycle, so every now and again I'd sneak into a local set shop, buy a mag, because I had my crash helmet on. I went in crash helmet, bought a mag or whatever. And my mate said, "Can I borrow one once?" And I went, "Yeah, all right." Lent him it. I said, "But hide it so your mum doesn't find it." And he went, "Yeah, all right, I will. And I went round to his house a week later, and his mum said, "I'm not talking to you." And I went, "Oh, oh shit, what's gone on?" "Oh, yeah, I've got an idea why." And my mate goes, "She found it." And I said, "Where did you hide it?" And he goes, "I put it under my mattress." And I said, "On what planet did it not occur to you that your mum makes your bed? And it might not be the best hiding place." Oh, she didn't talk to us for about a month after that. She just used to cast evils across her. I better not lend him another. The dinner ticket racket. 60p razzle. Yeah, them were the days. Bloody razzle, and what were the other one? Escort. Jeez. Porn on the cheap. It was a 50-50 chance one of the women in it were your next door neighbour. It's like that guy, going back to that guy that did the cookery pro, does the cookery channel and stuff for his missus. He said to the missus, he says, "I'm in a right horny mood today." And he says she stripped down and said, "I've got something that'll cure that." And he says, "You're right, I've totally gone off the idea now." Take care, Dave. Good to see you in. I'm thinking of winding it up now anyway, because I've to probably have a bath and everything and get ready for work tomorrow. Fancy, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, Scooby. It's mum in Reader's West. Ah, Hey, they're all somebody's mum. Yeah, they're all somebody's mum. Oh, funny. I'll never forget as kids, we had all the houses on our estate were modernised. And somebody must have been less than careful with his stash of Polaroids. And it was one at women off estate. And I'll tell you something, it was an awakening for all us 12-year-olds. Well, no, I weren't even 12. I think I was probably 10. You were like that? Well, I wouldn't have salad in her house. What's she doing? She can't be eating that with that end. Yeah, bloody hell, some of the stuff you found. Yeah, the workmen in the thing had like thieved all the Polaroids. And they turned up in one of the huts because we were inquisitive. We went into the huts searching, or the bigger lads did, and the bigger lads used to go, look what we've found in the huts, builders' huts. And you're like, whoa, nowhere. She lives 3 doors away from me. I'll never forget years ago when party lines used to be popular when you couldn't really afford a phone of your own, and they did a party line. And my sister come off one day and she goes, there's somebody from round back of drive trying to organise a wife swapping party. And my dad, cool as anything, he'd said, take your mum and see if we can get a telly for her. Oh, he were very witty, my dad, at times. 10 grams of antique. Oh dear. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, it is. It's funny, but that's what happened in them days. Bloody hell. Nowadays, there's no point of a Polaroid camera. Digital cameras do it faster, better. Store them on your computer. Victorian ankles, oh, they were sexy. Oh, funny story about an air rifle. Last one I really had as a kid. I had to leg it. I accidentally shot a lad in the arse. I was, I was honestly, innocently, it was my rifle, and I sold it to me mate, and I fancied going shooting. So I said, can I borrow my rifle back? I want to go shooting. And he said, yeah, all right. So he lent it me. But in between, he took the trigger guard off, and he were a smart ass. He'd give it her, her trigger. Anyway, this day I was outside of this lodge. I weren't even aiming it or anything. And I was just loading it to next shot, and I cocked it, put pellet in, and as I brought it up, I accidentally touched the air trigger, and it fired, and this lad, I couldn't have done a better shot if I'd have aimed it. He yelped with pain and held his butt cheek. And I thought, fuck, shot someone. So me and my mate, we legged it. I legged it right over tops, and I got onto Wills, just in time, and I had a good survey of the land around because I lived in the countryside, and I had a fantastic view of all the police vans coming down road to where I'd shot him. I thought, oh shit, and I had to time it to get back in between all the police vans. I hid under my bed, and my dad said, "Oh, what have you been up to?" I said, "Nothing. Why? Somebody said something." He said, "No, why? Why he had you?" "Nothing, nothing, Dad. Don't worry about it." Virac. Bloody hell, Virac pistols. That's a name from the past. I think mine were a Diana rifle, if I remember rightly. I used to borrow my brother's BSA 22. I think I had a Diana 177. And I remember being gutted because it wasn't a 22. See, I think that to a degree, with the nanny state now and everything, I think that's been ruined to the fun it was. There's not enough clear areas now where there used to be loads of areas near me. You could go out ratting. Now they've all been turned into country parks, so there's people and hikers all over them. Where I lived in the countryside, my local farm now is a bloody farm shop and ice cream parlour or whatever. It used to be my local farm with haystack, chicken coop, bloody cow sheds, and it was a proper working farm. Now it's a farm shop. About 10% farm and about 90% shop. I did that. I did that, Scooby. I shot one and one of my pellets whistled. I shot an insulator and one of the pellets whistled back about 2 inches from my ear. I nearly got an ear piercing off it. That sounds good fun, Valleys. Living in countryside, I mean, I was fishing a pond one day up in the hills near me, and I heard on all the leaves. And I went, what the fuck was that? Anyway, 10 minutes later, a guy comes down, shotgun in hand, sat next to me with shotgun cracks. He said, "Sorry, mate, I didn't realise somebody were down here." Said, "It's all right, now it's us." But yeah, when I were a kid, if you were on the farmer's land who I lived next door to, we lived next door to a farm. If you were on his land, or he had any dogs on land, he'd shoot at you, he wouldn't hesitate. He was a bit more lenient with people. He put bloody grain in the shotgun cartridges instead of lead. But if dogs were on in amongst his livestock, he'd shoot them dead. He didn't piss about. Yeah, some of them valleys you can have put a load of little holes in some or one big one, depending on the size of shot. I was looking at the Only Fools and Horses sketch where Rodney went shooting in the country, and they said past the Purdy, and I thought, is it a proper Purdy? And I looked at it, and it were engraved, so I'm pretty sure it was a proper Purdy. Ah, Scooby, brilliant. Yeah, interesting things. I don't know them now. There's so much legislation now. And to be honest, once I've been in territorials and everything, hello again, Flymore. Yeah, I lost interest really in guns once I've been in territorial. They don't have the same impact once you've been let loose with javelin missiles. Like I was trained on the javelin missile system when I were in the light air defence regiment, as opposed to my first lot of territorials or bomb disposal basically in engineers. So there's two pretty different things. What a cool machine to find valleys. There was a guy I used to work with, and he had a Ducati, and he'd never been able to get it running. And I still wonder nowadays if he ever got it running. I would now. I'd find no problem in getting it running. They can be a bit more temperamental Italian engines, though. But when a Ducati's on song, but having said that, I got a there were a Ducati Monster owner where I worked, and I went to work one day on my Phaser 6. I had a Phaser 600 Yami, and I pulled up in the snow, and he turned round and said, "Have you ridden that today?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" I said, "Roads aren't that bad, it's only a thin layer of snow. It's not bad." And he went, "Oh, I've not brought mine out." I mean, being older and more sensible, I probably wouldn't now. Saying that, it's only 4 years ago. You know, I thought they were nice, the Moto Marini 3.5. Last time I saw one was in, hang on, Lim. I went for a ride out to Lim, and there was one near Canal at Lim. Nice little bike. Oh, I couldn't have lived without Scooby. Couldn't have lived without. To be honest, on a bike, all I ever used the clutch was for starting off and stopping again. After that, I just timed it when engine were at right revs and dipped it into next gear without clutch. Yeah, Ducatis do sound nice. They're a bit of a beast. Twins sound nice. My Kawasaki 500, I put a 200 milli back box on it, sports exhaust, and it sounded an absolute beast. And it wasn't fast by any stretch of the imagination. Fair enough, it put me in hospital for 2 weeks and nearly killed me, but it wasn't a fast bike. They were, you know something, they're a very sought after bike now, the Motor Marini 3.5. And if you look back at the time, they weren't really that regarded a bike. Yeah, it is fly more. Get that timing right and they just pop into gear, no problem. The only time you should be using a clutch on a bike is stopping and starting. Jesus, that'd have been fun. Well, it's Italian electrics, isn't it? They used to say their electrics are like spaghetti. That were nice, the RGV 250. RGV 500 was Suzuki. RD 500 was Yamaha. Three-cylinder inline 400. That's three-cylinder inline 400. Sounds like the Kawasaki KH. They were three-cylinder inline and 400s. You know, the H100s, the Hondas, they were an underrated little two-stroke commuter then. They were nippy little things. I did ride one back in the day. Trying to think that, yeah, I'm talking about the inline 400. If it were inline and a 400 two-stroke, it's more than likely a Kawasaki KH. But if it's a V3, yeah, it'll be one of the Hondas. Sounds nice, Flymo. Yeah, that name rings a bell. NSR 400. I had an MB50. There's a mate that still hates me for that. Till this day, he hates me. Because I had an MB50. And I got it. He was about 2 year old. And I got it for 50 quid. He gave it me, the lad. It was 25 quid. Because it wasn't running proper. And he gave it me. Anyway, my mate, he was a mechanic allegedly, and he had a Honda 125S. And he said, I can't get it running. I went, right, okay. Give it me. I said, this one runs. I said, I'll swap it with you, plus 100 quid for the MB5. And he went, right, okay. So I was 75 quid up and another bike. So and it took me 2 minutes. I stood there kicking it over while I turned the plate at the top with the points on. And it just went bubba bum, bubba bum, bubba bum. Then turned it and he was round away. Tightened the plate up again. Said, how did you do that? I said, I just turned the plate round and kicked it till it kicked up. And he went, what? I set that? I said, well, you'd obviously set it wrong. He said, I set it to top dead centre. And I said, well, you can't have done because I've started it, it's right. And he was furious because he thought it were a non-runner. And I stripped all the road bits off it and made a track. It were a terrific little track bike, but he was furious. He got the Honda MB50 running, by the baffles were blocked and he couldn't get the baffles out. So he stuck nails about 100 times down the length of the exhaust so it could breathe. He was going down the road shooting out two-stroke smoke from every little hole in. Oh, it was piss funny. But it ran. Oh, Nightmare Valleys. Dead dog scenario. Fantastic. I'm just reading through the comments, not had a chance for it. Ape, Suzuki Ape. Bloody hell. There's a blast from the past. You ain't done nothing yet till you rode a bloop. I rode a bloop once. I went from Suzuki GP100 and I needed to get some spares for it, and I had a mate in a bike shop. And he said, borrow one of the shop bikes. He said to go and get your spares. I went, right, okay. And he lent me the shop's bloop. I'd never ever rode a slow two-stroke until that day. 100cc, 3 gears, and it wouldn't have beat me RD50. The way, bloody hell, going back. We all did it back then. Yeah, I'll never forget when I worked at Signal Box, one of the signalmen there, Mike, he said, have a go on my bike to go into Manchester. Because I was going into Manchester to, I think I was picking something up from the stores. He said, use my bike, have a go on my bike. And I were only a 17-year-old at the moment. And I still had me, did I still have me RD50 or were I on a YB100? Anyway, he lent me a Suzuki GT 185. And when I got back, he says, fucking hell. He said, I heard you absolutely thrashing that through Salford. He said, I heard you about quarter of an hour before you got back. He said, I heard my own bike being thrashed. He says, I was like that in Signal. Yeah, it were good. It were a good fun ride. It were enjoyable, Scooby. I'll be honest, I ain't gonna lie about it. I thrashed the tits off it and he weren't impressed when he got back. That one had the normal pipes on, he'd had factory pipes on, but it was still loud enough with them. It were back in the 70s and 80s. They weren't bothered about things like noise and emissions. What's that about? Noise and emissions, and you're worrying about shit like that. Anyway, I'm having great fun, but I'm looking and I've been on nearly 2.5 hours now. I think it's about time to call it an evening and say it's been fantastic again. Enjoyed every minute, especially the bike stuff. Takes me back to my youth. My brother gave me one of my first rides on a motorbike. I proceeded in my first lap of the field to go straight through a fence and into somebody's back garden because he told me how to start it and steer it, but he didn't tell me how to stop it. So I found out how to stop it in somebody's backyard. Fantastic, Flymore. You know, when we were younger, you were immortal. You didn't think of the danger in it. That's why me and my mate said if we'd have rode the bikes we had not so long ago, I've only sold mine about 6 months ago, my 600. If I'd have got my hands on that kit when I were 18, 20-year-old, I wouldn't have been here. I'd have killed myself. Yeah, fantastic, great fun. Happy days. Anyway, lads, thank you for another good night. And I'm disappearing. go and get the shower and stuff for work. It's difficult to say. If with me advancing years and disabilities, I'd probably, if I got one today, I always said to myself I'd have an Harley Sportster when I were a kid, and if I had one today, I probably would, because my hips are ghost, and it's low down, it's not as hard to get on and off, and I'd probably have a Sporty as a last bike. You know something, Scooby, a lot of people call the 883, say it's slow and everything, but it's light, it's easily handleable, it's it's a decent little bike. They're not fast, they never will be. So I'd have a 12 or an 883. It wouldn't worry me if it were an 883. A lot of people dog them, but you don't need a great deal of speed on a bike. Fantastic to have you in, Flymore. Fantastic to have you in. Well, yeah, we do indeed. They were great times. I've got to admit, I wouldn't have liked to live in these times now. If you're starting up on bikes and you have Yale plates, there's very little choice apart from Chinese. And a lot of them are same-ish. Like, we lived in a time where different people had different ideas, and it were a great time to live. They were innovative. Now, like today, everyone's scared to go off the beaten track. Like they'll introduce a 4-stroke twin every time. Whereas our generation, they went, oh, let's see what a 2-stroke triple's like, or even a 2-stroke V4. Like some of the crazy combinations they had, but they stick with a safe option. Everyone does in manufacturing now. Earthix, the amount of Spitfire kits they do. Hornby, let's do the Flying Scotsman again. It's all, let's stick with the same safe option. I wouldn't be surprised, Flymore. What were that crazy shit in Wales about? 20 mile per hour blanket speed limit. What a set of buffoons. I've got Flying Scotsman's valet. I've kept one as a Flying Scotsman, and if I've done them, I've renamed them all. I don't get it at all with the Flying Scotsman. They've got the moulds and everything, and there were so many names for the A3s. Like they could do Blink, Bonnie, bloody all them lot, but they never venture into the other names. You know, it's mad, and yet Whitby, up that way, it's biker country for going out. Oh, I always rode bikes, but half the time I rode them illegal or whatever during the 80s. and I'd never took a test, so I took it recently. And the amount of you've basically got 3 tests to get your license now, and the 3 intense tests. You have to do the theory, then your mod 1, then your mod 2. The mod 1's tricky enough to pass. You have to be on your game to pass mod 1. You have to know what you're doing controlling a bike. Mod 2's your on-road test. And I failed that. I failed my mod 1 once. My actual instructor said, he said, you know something, I've never seen somebody kick one of the cones up the course as far as you did. He said, I've never seen somebody come through that S-bend as quick and stop as fast. He said, I was gutted you kicked that cone, because if you'd have passed, he said, it's the fastest I've ever seen somebody go through that and stop okay. He said, if you hadn't clipped that cone, he said, you'd have passed. Yeah, just so. Not only did they release the Flying Scotsman more recently, they did it in about, was it 4 different versions? Or 3? How many Flying Scotsmans do you need? Surely the ranges before had covered it that were available on eBay. I understood the American Tour one, that was a nice one, with all the American Tour stuff on. That was quite nice. But if you look back in Hornby's history, they've done the 2-tender version in all different liveries. They've done the Brits, they've done LNER, British Rail. They've done every guise possible. You'd think there were no other local in that class. The funny, I'll leave you with this, Flymore, that'll tickle you. My very first motorbike test, I pulled up at some lights and there were a pothole at the side of me I hadn't spotted, and I only have stumpy legs. So the bike started going over and I couldn't stop it. So I laid it down, and as I laid it down, I hit the kill switch. So it didn't engage in gear or anything. I killed the engine as it were going down. And the examiner, he said, right, pull the bike over into the curb. He says, leave it there, don't get on it. I'll get your instructor to come back and pick you up. So he disappears. And in between him going and my instructor coming back, an ambulance pulled up, full blue lights on and everything, on the other side of the street. And my instructor, you saw him come back, the ambulance is there with blue lights. He thought, what the fuck hasn't the examiner told me? And he looked, and then he looked over to me and saw we're all right. You could see the sigh of relief. And he gets back to me. I said, Sir Mike, I said, he didn't tell me, have I passed or what? He said, you are taking the piss. But yeah, funny. So did he pass Scooby? They never tell you when you've passed if you do shit like that. I've got to admit though, my instructor, he used to say about that examiner, He said he's a miserable get. He never passes anyone. He said, I think he missed his calling. He said, I think he should have been a customs officer at the airport. Anyway, on that, I'll bid you good night, gents. Been a good night again. And as I say, tatty pie, everyone. And catch you on my next one, I do. Nighty night, gents. Tatty pie. Bye all. Good night. Bid you farewell to our next one.